I remember that night vividly. It was supposed to be peaceful, ordinary. I had just come home from work, exhausted but happy, ready to curl up on the couch and watch my favorite show. My phone buzzed, just one notification, a message from an unknown number. At first, I almost ignored it. But something about it made me stop. It said, "You should know what your boyfriend's been doing when he says he's working late." My chest tightened. My mind went blank for a moment, like time froze. Then another message came through. A photo. It was Daniel, my Daniel. The man who said he loved me, who told me he was staying late at the office. Only he wasn't at the office. He was in a restaurant. Smiling. With another woman. They weren't sitting far apart. They were close. Her hand was on his arm, and his eyes had that soft, familiar look I used to see when he looked at me. My stomach dropped. The room spun. And then I noticed something that made my heart stop completely. The jacket he was wearing. I recognized it instantly. It was the one I gave him for his birthday, just 2 weeks ago. I couldn't breathe. It was like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. I just sat there, staring at the picture, replaying every memory in my head. Every, "I love you." Every, "You mean everything to me." Every, "You're the only one." I waited for the anger to come, but it didn't. Instead, I felt something sharper. Cold, steady, controlled. I whispered to myself, so this is what he's been hiding. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't text him. I didn't confront him. Because I already knew. If I wanted to truly get even, I couldn't let him see it coming. That was the night I stopped being the girl who believed him. And I started being the woman who would expose him. When I first met Daniel, I thought he was the one. He had that effortless charm. The kind that draws people in without trying. The smile, the confidence. The way he looked at you like you were the only person in the room. We met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner. I was the shy one at the corner table, and he was the guy everyone seemed to know. When he offered to get me a drink, I almost said no. But he just grinned and said, "You look like you could use something strong, life or drink." I laughed. And that was it. That was the start. Within weeks, we were inseparable. Weekend trips, late night talks. He'd send texts every morning that said, "Good morning, beautiful." And call every night to say, "Sweet dreams, my girl." He had this way of making everything sound like forever. He talked about our future, the house we'd buy, the places we'd travel. He'd whisper, "You're my peace, you know that?" And I believed him. Every word. But slowly the magic started to fade. The "good morning" text became shorter. The "sweet dreams" calls turned into, "Sorry, I fell asleep." He started canceling plans, saying work was crazy. He'd be glued to his phone, smiling at messages he'd never show me. When I'd ask, he'd laugh. "You're being paranoid, babe. Don't overthink." So I didn't. Because love makes you ignore the signs that are screaming at you. Now, looking back, I see it clearly. Every meeting. Just a client. He wasn't just lying. He was rehearsing. And I was too blinded by love to see I was living in a story he'd written, where I was never meant to be the ending. It all started unraveling on my birthday. My best friend Maya had organized a small dinner. Daniel promised he'd come. He picked the restaurant himself, he said. Wouldn't miss it for the world. But when the night came, he didn't show. No call, no text, nothing. At first, I made excuses for him. Maybe a work emergency, maybe he forgot his charger, maybe traffic. But as hours passed and my friends sang happy birthday, around a half-melted cake, I felt that hollow ache inside my chest grow heavier. I called him. Once. Twice. 10 times. Straight to voicemail. The next morning, he showed up at my door with coffee and flowers, smiling like nothing happened. "Babe, I'm so sorry. There was this last-minute client dinner. My phone died." And then I saw it. A faint lipstick stain on his collar. Not mine. When I pointed it out, he chuckled. One of my coworkers gave me a hug. You know how they are. He brushed it off, kissed my forehead, and walked away. That was the first moment I stopped believing his stories. I started paying attention. He was protective of his phone now. Never left it unattended. He turned it face down even during dinner. And when it vibrated, he'd glance at it and smile that same secretive smile. One night, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed again. The name lit up the screen, Clara. The same woman from the photo. I felt my whole body go cold. That was it. The proof I needed. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. He was lying. And from that night on, I decided, If he could play games, so could I. The following week, Daniel told me he had another late work dinner. I smiled and said, "Of course. Don't stay out too long." He kissed my cheek, and I watched him leave. Then I followed him. He drove across town, not to his office, but to a cozy Italian restaurant. I parked a few cars away and watched. And then I saw her, Clara, the woman from the photo. They hugged like lovers, not coworkers. She touched his arm. He tucked her hair behind her ear. They laughed, shared food, even toasted like they were celebrating something. I sat there in silence, recording everything. Every smile, every lie. And you know what hurt the most? He looked happy. Genuinely happy. Happier than I'd seen him in months. When he finally came home, I was waiting, calm, composed. "How was dinner?" I asked. He smiled. "Good, just work stuff." I smiled back, glad to hear. He didn't notice the drive I had hidden away. The one with every picture, every timestamp. That night, I didn't sleep beside him. I stared at the ceiling, realizing the man next to me wasn't my boyfriend. He was a stranger I thought I knew, but what he didn't know was that I was done being the victim of his story. From that night forward, I was writing my own. Confronting him wasn't enough. Men like Daniel don't admit. They manipulate. So I decided to make him expose himself. First, I collected everything. Screenshots, photos, receipts, messages, even his social media check-ins. I created a private folder labeling it Truth. Then, I made a fake profile. A perfect copy of Clara. Same profile photo, similar tone, same emojis. It was risky, but worth it. I messaged him, "Hey, miss you already. Same place tomorrow." Within minutes he replied, "Can't wait. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." Got him. The next day I told him I had to stay late at work. He smiled, completely unaware that I was already at the restaurant before him. He walked in, looking around, expecting her. And when his eyes landed on me, he froze. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I sat at the table, calm and collected. "Sit," I said. He sat, fumbling for words. "I can explain." I pressed play on my phone. His own messages filled the air between us. His voice. His lies, every word. He turned pale. When the last message ended, I stood up, grabbed my bag, and said softly, "I hope she was worth it." And then I walked away, leaving him sitting there, surrounded by the truth he built himself. The next day, the fallout began. Clara called me. She'd seen the messages too. "I had no idea," she said, her voice trembling. "He told me you two broke up months ago." Instead of anger, we found understanding. Two women, betrayed by the same man, deciding he wouldn't destroy either of us. Together, we did something he'd never expect. Clara worked at the same company as Daniel, and that company had a strict, no workplace relationships policy. We didn't spread lies. We didn't even exaggerate. We just showed proof, messages, photos, everything. By the end of the week, Daniel was suspended. His reputation, gone. His friends, silent, useless. He showed up at my door pounding, shouting my name. "Please, we can fix this." I made a mistake. I didn't open the door. He once said to me, "No one walks away from me." Well, I did. And I didn't look back. In the weeks that followed, the silence felt strange. No messages. No fake apologies, no pretending. Just me. At first it hurt. The kind of quiet that reminds you of everything you lost. But slowly it started to feel peaceful. I began focusing on myself again. Therapy, morning runs, painting, traveling. Things I hadn't done since before Daniel. Maya asked me once, "Don't you wish you could undo it all?" I smiled. No. Because if I did, I wouldn't have learned who I really am. Months later, I saw him by chance, sitting alone at a cafe, looking lost. His eyes were empty. His hands shook as he stirred his coffee. I looked at him for a moment, then walked away. And for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel anger. I just felt free. Betrayal doesn't just break you. It transforms you. It teaches you that closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from realizing you deserve peace more than revenge. Daniel thought he could control the story, that I'd stay quiet, ashamed. But I didn't. I let the truth speak louder than his lies. And in the end, it wasn't me who destroyed him. It was his own deception. The same web he spun to trap others. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: the strongest revenge isn't shouting or exposing. It's silence. It's walking away with your head high while they drown in the mess they made. Because sometimes, the best payback is peace. And knowing you survived what was meant to break you.